What if one fine day you get a news that the car which you have, which you bought 7-8 years back or probably 9 to 10 years back, is worth nothing all of a sudden? All of a sudden it is worth scrap. Everyone, including me, would be startled, would be shocked and would be devastated. Somewhat similar kind of situation took place in the National Capital Territory of India, that is Delhi, when it was announced that from July 1st onwards, the 10-year-old vehicle which are diesel based and 15-year-old vehicle which are petrol based,
and proposed to take away old vehicles which included petrol vehicles older than 15 years as well as diesel vehicles older than 10 years to curb Delhi's pollution.
In these set circumstances, it is not feasible to implement this system where fuel is being denied to EOL end-of-life vehicles identified through ANPR installed at petrol pumps in Delhi.
Would be denied fuel at the fueling stations. Now, to give you a context, this debate around banning vehicles or end-of-life vehicles, EOL vehicles, has been ongoing since the last 1 decade in our country, especially in the NCR region, that is National Capital Territory region of our country. Now, this issue of banning overage old vehicles or end-of-life vehicles has been ongoing in the National Capital region of our country since the last 1 decade. And in the last 1 decade, there have been several guidelines, several Supreme Court rulings, and eventually Government of Delhi and central government's directions in order to ban overage vehicles in NCR region. However, as you would have anticipated, after this directive by the Delhi government, there was an extreme backlash by the public in relation to this particular order. Because even if the cars are old, still they have been bought by people through their hard-earned money. And a country where already middle class is in a crisis, the cars which are bought by middle class, probably of 20 lakh rupees, 30 lakh rupees, 50 lakh, 70 lakh, 80 lakh, 1 crore rupees, if they are over age, they would be dealt as scrap, which is usually a very harsh treatment in relation to old vehicles for any country or any major city in the world. And as anticipated, after the huge backlash from different quarters of the region, the Delhi government eventually said that they won't be impounding the end-of-life vehicles. And the Environment Minister of Delhi had to come and say that there will be a new system which will be devised for handling old vehicles in the region. Also, after citing technological and cross-border fueling concerns, CAQM, that is Commission for Air Quality Management in our country, has deferred the ban on fuel provided to end-of-life vehicles till November 1st. Earlier, the deadline which was given was July 1st, but after huge backlash, it has been deferred to November 1st. Until then, new methods would be devised where the vehicles of the people won't be impounded. Because earlier in the earlier directive, the case was that if you go to the fueling station and if your vehicle is found to be 10 years old in relation to diesel vehicle and found to be 15 years old in relation to petrol vehicle, it would be impounded by the government. And eventually it will be dealt as scrap. Now, this very harsh looking measure, according to the authorities, according to the courts and several experts, is due to environmental concerns in NCR region and due to devastating environmental pollution, especially air pollution caused by vehicular emissions in this particular region. Now, what is this fuel ban all about? What is the chronology of events in relation to this fuel ban and in relation to the banning of vehicles which are 10 years old and 15 years old in the NCR region? Is such type of ban going to solve the air pollution menace in Delhi? And if not, then what are different ways through which air pollution in Delhi can be solved? All these issues we'll be trying to address in this particular session. Hello, my name is Preetpal Singh and you're watching Perspective. Now, before understanding the issue in hand, let us focus on the meta theme. The meta theme here is not the old age vehicles, it's not the end of life vehicles, it's not the fuel, but the meta theme here is air pollution in Delhi. And not just in Delhi, but air pollution in India. See, Delhi is considered to be one of the most polluted cities in the entire world, not just in India. And if you see in the winter season in Delhi, mostly the air would be in hazardous category. And the situation has become so worse that in the year 2019, Honorable Supreme Court of India had to come out and say that Delhi has become worse than a narc. Air pollution in India is expected to kill around 2 million people annually and is the 5th largest cause of death in our country. And India has world's highest death rate in relation to chronic respiratory diseases and asthma, which are usually caused by air pollution. Now, you all must be privy to the great smog of Delhi, that is during the winter period when smoke and fog, they merge and form a smog which is very hazardous, and actually living in Delhi during that period looks like hell. Now, it's not that the environmental pollution in Delhi or in India has emerged all of a sudden. It has been ongoing since the last many decades, but the visual impact or the visual effects are more rampantly seen in the last 1 decade. Specifically 2015 onwards, in Delhi and in different parts of the country, you could see this great smog, or you could see environmental pollution going to a very massive scale. which is why during that time period only, several organizations came and gave directives in order to solve the problem of air pollution. Now, in order to solve the problem of air pollution, first they had to go to the sources of air pollution, that what causes air pollution, especially in the national capital region of the country. And when the research was done, it was highlighted that around 40% of the air pollution is caused by vehicular emissions, which is a very large chunk of the entire air pollution caused by different other sources, whether it be industrial emissions, whether it be dust or different other parts as well. 40% is caused by vehicular emissions on an average. Now, based on this, an organization named as National Green Tribunal gave an order in the year 2015 banning 10-year or older diesel vehicles in the national capital region of Delhi. And it also prohibited registration of petrol vehicles which are more than 15 years of age and diesel vehicles which are more than 10 years of age in Delhi NCR. Now, when this order was challenged in the Supreme Court of India in the year 2018, Honorable Supreme Court of India upheld the directive of NGT, National Green Tribunal, and they reinforced the judgment given by NGT and said that any vehicle which are against the policy of NGT should be impounded immediately, which means they reiterated what National Green Tribunal has said in the year 2015. And that is where the policies around vehicles in the state, in the region of Delhi, started to shift and started to change. Now, firstly, very quickly understand what is this National Green Tribunal. So, NGT is an environmental body or an environmental organization which was formed in the year 2010 based on the National Green Tribunal Act of 2010. Now, the main motive of this act and the formation of NGT was to expedite environmental justice in India. And as a specialized body, NGT was given the task to handle cases in relation to environmental protection, forest conservation, and enforcement of legal rights associated with the environment, including any compensation of damages for an individual or property from environmental violations in the country. So it was given a very large mandate, but the motive was just one: to expedite environmental justice in the country. Now, NGT ensures efficient environmental dispute resolution with an expert input, and it aims to resolve all the cases within 6 months of deadline. Now, usually the chairman of NGT is a retired Supreme Court judge or Chief Justice of High Court, which are chosen by the central government in consultation with the Chief Justice of India who's serving. And if you see NGT overall, it also addresses violations in relation to different environmental laws which exist in our country as well. Now, whether it be Water Act of 1974, whether it be Air Act of 1981, whether it be Environmental Protection Act of 1986 or Forest Conservation Act 1980, Biological Diversity Act 2002 and Public Liability Insurance Act of 1991, all these acts are enforced by the National Green Tribunal. And keeping in mind this view, in the year 2015, NGT gave a judgment where they banned 10-year-old diesel vehicles in the NCR region. And also, they stopped the registration for 15-year-old petrol vehicles and further 10-year-old diesel vehicles in the entire region. And as I've told you earlier, in the year 2018, Supreme Court upheld the decision and eventually said impounding of vehicles should be done immediately if they violate the NGT ruling. Now, complying with these directions, in the year 2025, environmental protection end-of-life vehicle rules came into force. And they came into force from April 1st of 2025, which mandates scrapping of end-of-life vehicles within 180 days of expiry of vehicle's registration. So within 6 months, that is 180 days of expiry of registration of the vehicle should be scrapped. So in Delhi, the denial of fuel would start from July 1st to the end-of-life vehicles, that is 10-year for diesel, 15-year for petrol. In the high-density NCR districts, it will start from November 1st. And the rest of NCR, it would start from April 1st, 2026. That was the deadline or timeline which was given by CAQM on April of 2025. Now, to implement these directions, in around 498 fueling stations and 3 ISBT terminals, there was now established automatic number plate recognition cameras. So these cameras were placed in these particular fueling stations. Now, they can scan the vehicle plates and cross-check with the Vahan database that what is the date of registration of this particular vehicle and how old that vehicle is. And if the vehicle is identified as an end-of-life vehicle, an audio alert is triggered and the fuel is denied in that particular fueling station. Which means that if there is no valid exemption which the person is able to show to the fueling station or no relevant documents are to be shown, then the vehicle would be impounded. The end-of-life vehicle would be impounded and would be scrapped. Now, the enforcement teams for this would include the Transport Department of Delhi, the Traffic Police, and also the civic bodies. So one thing is clear till now, that these directions are given to the Delhi government by a body known as CAQM, that is Commission for Air Quality Management. Now, this CAQM was formed in the year 2021. It was formalized through the Commission for Air Quality Management in the NCR and Adjoining Areas Act of the year 2021. And its jurisdiction is that it covers the area of Delhi, Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, and Uttar Pradesh, especially contributing to the air pollution in the NCR region, that is National Capital Region of the country. Now, what is the mandate of the CAQM? What is it meant to do? Its mandate is to provide a coordinated response to air pollution and also to ensure synergy across different ministries and different states to combat the problem of air pollution in these regions where the jurisdiction of CAQM is. And also it aims to replace the fragmented approach that involves multiple agencies and overlapping responsibilities, which is why the directions given by CAQM are binding on the governments. And which is why, in retaliation to this CAQM directives, the Environment Minister of Delhi has also written a letter to CAQM highlighting that this immediate fuel ban to the vehicles from July 1st in Delhi region would be counterproductive. And also the Environmental Minister highlighted that this might be a premature decision and might pose or might serve as potentially counterproductive in solving this problem of air pollution in the region. Also, other than this, the Delhi government has flagged numerous other problems as well, especially with this plate recognition system, the automatic number plate recognition system, or the cameras which they've put. In many areas, there is misplacement of cameras. They're not able to detect the number plates automatically. Also, there are non-functional sensors and speakers in many of the fueling stations. And in many of the fueling stations, there is inability to detect the end-of-life vehicles due to different various issues as well. Also, one more potential challenge which Delhi government has highlighted is that this system, it lacks integration with the vehicle database of the adjoining NCR districts also, making it very easy for the vehicle owners to bypass the ban and get fuel in the adjoining areas. And also, there is widespread discontent and backlash from the public in relation to this directive, which is why it needs to be stopped, it needs to be ended. Now, one logical question which you might ask is this a ban on fuel for 10-year-old diesel vehicles and 15-year-old petrol vehicles going to solve the problem of air pollution in Delhi or not? That is a simple question. If it solves the problem, then we shall go ahead with this particular ban. But if the problem is not being solved, then there is no point in just this operational hazard. So answering this question, we have to understand what is the issue with the older vehicles first. See, all of you must have heard of BS4, BS5, BS6 compliant engines. It is Bharat Stage 4, Bharat Stage 6 engines. Okay. See, first of all, understand this, that what is this Bharat Stage norms in the country? BS norms. See, BS norms are the emission standards which are instituted by the Government of India to regulate the output of air pollutants from the internal combustion engine or spark ignition engines, including motor vehicles. In actuality, these are European emission norms, that is Euro norms. And they apply to all the vehicles, whether it be two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler, trucks, buses, any other vehicle as well. Now, BS1 standards nationwide in our country was adopted in the year 2000. And 5 years later, the BS2 standards in India were completely adopted. That is in the year 2005. In the year 2010, the BS3 standards nationwide was adopted. And in the year 2015, BS4 standards in the major cities of the country were adopted. Now, by the year 2020, it was BS5 standards. And by the year 2025, BS6 standards in the entire country would be adopted. Actually, the intent of the Government of India was that there should be a direct shift from BS4 to BS6 standards in our country by the year 2020. That was the motive of the government. Now let us understand what is the difference between this BS4 standards and BS6 standards. Firstly, these are the engines, internal combustion engines, and they should be compliant with these standards. And these standards highlight what? That what all pollutants are emitted by the engine. So if an engine is complying with BS4 norms, it is generally perceived that an engine, if it is complying with BS4 norms, would be polluting more pollutants, more harmful pollutants as compared to an engine complying with BS6 norms, which came later. And to give you a data, BS4 engines, they emit around 4.5 to 5.5 more particulate matter as compared to BS6 vehicles. And to give you certain data, these transport emissions, they account for around 28% of particulate matter 2.5 in Delhi region, 41% of the sulfur dioxide, 78% of nitrogen oxide emissions in the NCR region, which means that banning these old vehicles might prove to be a little bit effective in order to control the air pollution menace in the country, in the region especially. And which is why this answers your question that should older vehicle be targeted? The answer is yes. But should they be targeted in this way that overnight, in a span of few days or weeks, there would be no fuel to the old vehicles? The answer is no. This shouldn't be done. The ways which needs to be devised should be different. And there shouldn't be a case where if I bought a car worth 80 lakh rupees, after 10 years I have to sell it at 2 lakh rupees. That much a depreciating asset we can't say a car is. Definitely car is a depreciating asset. Over a period of time, the value of the car goes down. But a 80 lakh rupees car being sold just for 2.5 lakh rupees after a span of 10 years, this is absolutely mind-boggling. Which is why, yes, agreed that there are issues with the older vehicle, but older vehicle needs to be treated sincerely. It shouldn't be that if a vehicle is old, we should throw it away. Because a lot of vehicles are there where people have paid tax for 15 years on that vehicle. But after 10 years, they have to sell off that vehicle. And according to the data, there are around 60 lakh plus such kind of vehicles, end of life vehicles in the NCR region, which are at the verge of becoming scrap if this particular policy again comes into play. So what is required is that different other methods need to be looked forward in order to solve this problem of air pollution and in order to deal with these older vehicles. It shouldn't be like that if a Audi or a BMW or a Mercedes, which is bought for 1 crore, 1.5 crore, or a Range Rover or Defender, which is bought for 2 crores, 3 crores, after a span of 10 years, their value should ideally be in the market 50 lakh rupees. If a car I'm buying for 2.5 crore, after 10 years, if a well-maintained car is there, its value should be at least 50, 60 lakh rupees. Sometimes even more than that. But in the NCR region, just because of the government policy, I have to sell that car at 10 lakh rupees or even lesser than that. Because if I don't sell the car, it will eventually turn into scrap. So we should not make the middle class of our country especially suffer. And these are luxury high-end cars, of course, but usually the middle class of our country, they are able to afford a car between the range of 10 lakh rupees to 20 lakh rupees. And some even lesser than that. And if they are just selling their car as scrap after 10 years, they don't have the money and turnaround time to buy a car every 10 years or buy a car every 15 years. Which is why we need to be considerate for them. We need to be considerate for the masses. And this huge backlash which the government has got after this implementation of these reforms, the government should take it very, very seriously. And different other technological ways involving IITs, IIMs, technological institutes in the country, they need to be working on mission mode, project mode, where interns from IITs could be hired. And several IIT people are working, but the government needs to give them these projects where they'll be working alongside the government as their research projects in order to solve real world problems rather than sitting in the AC classrooms and doing the work, doing the research which is not having any outcome. These kind of research project needs to be given to the students in order to ensure that air pollution menace in the NCR region is solved without a public inconvenience. If that is done, eventually the whole problem will be taken care of. I hope you gained a new perspective from the session. What are your views surrounding this particular policy of the Delhi government and the directives given by CAQM? Please let me know in the comment section. I'll be very happy to read your comments. All the best and have a nice day. Thank you.